In a world where business success is often measured by marketing budgets and cold sales pitches, Michael Tracey does things differently. For him, growing his junk removal business wasn't about flashy ads or hard sales, it was about people. With a knack for listening, a heart for helping, and a philosophy rooted in trust and generosity, Mike transformed Brightwell Junk Removal into more than just a service company. He built a thriving community of connections, referrals, and goodwill. In The Relationship Farmer, you'll journey alongside Mike as he plants the seeds of meaningful relationships, nurtures them with care, and reaps the rewards of a network built on mutual respect and shared success. Drawing powerful parallels between farming and relationship building, this inspiring book will show you how to cultivate trust and goodwill in every interaction, build a business that thrives on referrals and authentic connections, and help others succeed while growing your own success. Whether you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, or someone eager to deepen your relationships, the Relationship Farmer will inspire you to trade shallow transactions for rich, rewarding connections and prove that the best business strategy starts with a simple act of kindness. Your next business harvest begins here. About the author, me, Stephen Zyskowski. I founded the Caerusnet Referral Team Network in 2008, honoring my passion to help locally focused small business professionals and service providers form their own referral passing teams that are both fun and profitable. Caerusnet is a series of guiding principles and proven strategies for building referral teams. Caerusnet teams are built on the partnership between the members and their facilitator, who is generally also a local business owner. And now, the relationship farmer. Chapter 1: The Seed of Connection. Michael Tracey always had a knack for connecting people. It wasn't just about the small talk or polite pleasantries. It was about truly understanding others, figuring out what made them tick, and finding ways to help them. When he started his business, Brightwell Junk Removal, he knew that being in the service industry was more about than just hauling away old furniture and debris. For Mike, it was about building something deeper, a network of relationships that would not only sustain his business, but enrich the lives of those around him. But like any seasoned farmer will tell you, before you can grow a successful crop, you need to plant the right seeds. And for Mike, those seeds were relationships. When Mike launched Brightwell Junk Removal, he didn't spend much time on traditional advertising. Instead, he did something that surprised a lot of people. He focused on getting to know the community. He joined local business groups, attended networking events, and made it a point to engage with other small business owners. To outsiders, it might have seemed like Mike was spending too much time talking and not enough time working. But Mike knew something they didn't. Just like planting seeds in fertile soil, relationships take time to grow, and the harvest would come later. Mike's approach was simple. He didn't ask for business right away, and he didn't push his junk removal services on anyone he met. Instead, he listened. He learned about the challenges other business owners were facing, what they needed, and how he could help. Often, that didn't involve junk removal at all. One day, he connected a landscaper with the homeowner who needed a new backyard design. After time, he referred a business coach to a fellow entrepreneur struggling to find their footing. In a way, Mike was always planting. Every introduction, every conversation was like placing a seed into the ground. Some would sprout quickly, leading to direct business. Others might take months or even years to blossom. But Mike never lost sight of the long game. His goal wasn't to make a quick sale. It was to cultivate relationships that would continue to bear fruit long after the initial interaction. Just like a farmer who carefully selects where and when to plant his crops, Mike chose his networking efforts with precision. He didn't try to meet everyone in town. Instead, he focused on building meaningful connections with people who shared his values, honesty, integrity, and a commitment to helping others. Mike understood that not all soil is fertile. In the same way, not all relationships will yield results. So he focused on nurturing the ones that mattered most. At networking events, he stood out. While others exchanged business cards in a rush, Mike took his time, asking about people's families, their hobbies, and what got them excited to get up in the morning. He wasn't there to collect contacts, he was there to make connections. And just like the first shoots of a new crop, those connections started to grow. Mike will never forget the first referral he received from his new network. It came from a local real estate agent, someone he'd met at a business luncheon a few months prior. They had barely talked about junk removal at the time. Instead, Mike had spent most of the conversation asking the realtor about his challenges in the housing market and shared a few leads for potential clients. Weeks later, the realtor called Mike with a referral. I've got a homeowner who needs a bunch of junk cleared out before we can list the property. I told them to call Brightwell Junk Removal. It wasn't a big job, but it was a significant moment. That one referral was the start of something much bigger. Mike realized that by investing in others, by planting those seeds of connection, he was slowly building a referral network that would sustain his business for the long run. Mike's philosophy was clear. The more he helped others, the more they would be inclined to help him. But he wasn't just doing it to get something in return. Like a farmer who tends to his crop with patience and care, knowing the harvest will come in due time, Mike nurtured his relationships because he believed in their long-term value. He continued to water his network by staying involved in the community, following up with people he met, and always looking for ways to provide value. Chapter 2: Tilling the Soil, Building a Foundation. Mike Tracey had learned early on that growing anything of value, whether it was crops or business, required preparation. Just like a farmer doesn't simply throw seeds into any patch of land, Mike knew that laying a strong foundation for his referral-based business meant choosing the right places to invest his time and energy. He couldn't rely on word of mouth to just happen. He had to cultivate the right conditions for it to flourish. In business, that soil was the community. When Mike first started Brightwell Junk Removal, he didn't yet have a large network. Sure, he knew a few people in town, but he wasn't embedded in the local business scene. So he set out to till the soil, so to speak, by finding the right environments where relationships could take root. This meant carefully selecting where to focus his networking efforts and which connections were worth nurturing. Mike wasn't one to force connections. He understood, just as any good farmer does, that soil must be fertile for seeds to grow. He sought out environments where his values aligned with those of the people he met. It wasn't about volume, it was about quality. He attended local Chamber of Commerce meetings, joined a Caerusnet facilitated referral network group, and started showing up at community events. Each setting provided fertile ground, full of opportunities to meet other business owners who valued relationships as much as he did. His presence wasn't passive either. Mike actively participated in discussions, introduced himself to others, and asked questions about their business. He approached every interaction with curiosity, focusing on learning how he could add value to the other person's world. While others were eager to hand out their business cards, Mike focused on something deeper, getting to know people for who they were, not just what they could offer him. It was this genuine interest in people that allowed Mike to begin building trust, the key ingredient in any successful relationship. Just like a farmer enriches soil with nutrients, Mike enriched his connections by offering help without expecting anything in return. He wasn't just another business owner looking for contacts. He was someone people could trust. Not all soil is fertile, and not every networking opportunity is worth pursuing. Mike quickly realized that attending every event and shaking every hand wouldn't necessarily lead to more referrals. Instead, he focused on tilling the soil where it would yield the best results. One of the most productive environments for him was a local facilitated referral team that met regularly throughout the year online. At Caerusnet, Mike didn't just find business contacts, he found kindred spirits. The group was made up of local professionals who believed in helping one another grow, much like the interconnected relationships that sustain a healthy ecosystem. These were people who understood the value of long-term connections over short-term gains, just like Mike. Over time, Mike became known as the guy who always knew someone who could help. Need a good plumber? Call Mike. Looking for a valuable landscaper? Mike knew just the person. His reputation as a connector grew, and so did the trust people placed in him. This wasn't just luck, it was the result of carefully tilling the soil, investing time and energy in the right places with the right relationships. Mike understood that networking wasn't about selling, it was about creating opportunities for relationships to grow naturally. In his early days at Brightwell Junk Removal, he didn't lead conversations with talk of junk hauling. Instead, he broke the ground by getting to know the people behind the businesses. At one of his first networking meetings, he met a real estate agent named Angela who was struggling with getting homes ready for sale. Many of the properties she listed had been lived in for decades, filled with years' worth of furniture, old appliances, and personal belongings that needed to be cleared out before they could hit the market. Angela's stress was palpable, but instead of immediately pitching his services, Mike asked her what she needed most and how he could help her alleviate some of that burden. As they talked, Mike saw an opportunity to provide real value. I could help you clear out those properties, he said. You won't have to worry about hauling the junk. We'll take care of everything. Angela was intrigued. She hadn't been looking for a junk removal service when they met, but the solution Mike offered was exactly what she needed. She gave him a try, and after seeing the professionalism and care that Mike and his team brought to the job, she became a loyal referral source, recommending Brightwell Junk Removal to other realtors in the area. This was Mike's first major breakthrough. By taking the time to break the ground and ask questions, listen, and understand, he was able to transform a casual conversation into a long-lasting relationship. Just like a farmer must break the ground before planting, Mike knew that meaningful conversations were the key to unlocking future business. As Mike continued to build relationships, he realized that trust was the nutrient-rich soil in which all successful referrals grow. Trust isn't something you can rush, it's earned over time. And once it's there, it becomes the foundation of everything else. Every time Mike received a referral, he treated it as a seed of planted in trust. If he handled the referral well, the trust deepened, leading to more business. If he failed to live up to the expectation, the trust withered. He knew that the way he carried out each job was a reflection not just of him, but also of the people who referred to him. His customers, too, were part of this delicate ecosystem. By providing top-tier service and going above and beyond for his clients, Mike ensured that every interaction was an opportunity to plant another seed. Happy customers became his best advocates, referring Brightwell Junk Removal to their friends, family, and colleagues. In this way, his referral network continued to grow organically. Mike had laid the groundwork. He had tilled the soil, built a foundation of trust, and planted seeds in the relationships he nurtured. Now the real growth was about to begin. Chapter 3: Planting the Seeds of Trust. For a farmer, planting seeds is one of the most crucial steps in the growth cycle. Each seed holds the potential for a harvest, but only if it's placed in the right conditions and cared for properly. Michael Tracey took this philosophy to heart in his approach to business. He didn't just throw his services out to the world and hope for the best. Instead, he strategically planted the seeds of trust and goodwill. knowing they would eventually grow into long-term relationships and referrals. Mike's method of planting seeds started with one simple idea: being helpful without expectation. He had learned that the best way to build strong relationships was to be genuinely interested in others' success and offer help wherever he could. In the early days of Brightwell Junk Removal, this often meant going beyond his core business of removing junk. He saw himself as a connector, always looking for ways to help others solve problems, even if it wasn't related to junk removal. Mike's first step in planting seeds was always listening. Most people approach networking with the desire to talk about their own business, but Mike flipped the script. At every event, whether it was a local community meeting, a gathering hosted by Caerusnet, or a casual lunch with another business owner, Mike was the one asking questions. He wanted to understand what challenges others were facing and how he could be of service. One afternoon, while attending a local networking mixer, Mike met Alan, a struggling independent contractor who specialized in kitchen remodels. Alan was overwhelmed by the amount of debris his projects generated and didn't have a cost-effective way to manage the waste. As Alan vetted about his frustrations, Mike listened intently, not thinking about how to sell his services, but how to genuinely help. "Have you considered partnering with the junk removal company?" Mike asked after Alan finished explaining his situation. "I know a guy," he said with a smile, referring to himself. Alan's face lit up. The connection seemed so obvious once Mike suggested it, but it hadn't occurred to Alan that a junk removal service could alleviate his burden. Mike offered him a discounted rate for the first few jobs, and from there, the relationship grew. Alan became a regular client and, more importantly, a regular source of referrals. Mike had planted the seed by listening first and then offering a solution tailored to Alan's needs. For Mike, planting seeds wasn't about immediate returns. It was about contributing value without expecting anything in return, trusting that the harvest would come later. He believed in the long-term game, just like a farmer who plants in the spring and knows the crop won't be ready for months. One of the most memorable moments of his early networking days was when he helped a fellow business owner named Sarah, who ran a local bakery. Sarah was in a tight spot. Her oven had broken down just days before a large wedding order was due, and she didn't know how she would fulfill her commitment. While this problem had nothing to do with junk removal, Mike saw an opportunity to help. He quickly made some calls and found a local repairman who could fix the oven within 24 hours. Sarah was back in business, and the wedding cake was delivered on time. Mike never asked Sarah for a referral or expected anything in return, but a few weeks later, one of her customers, a real estate agent, mentioned needing junk removed from an estate sale property. Sarah referred Mike, and that single connection turned into several lucrative jobs. Just as in farming, the seed planted often takes time to grow. Sometimes you don't even know which seeds will sprout into the most rewarding opportunities. But Mike trusted the process. His philosophy of helping first with no expectation of immediate reward led to a steady stream of business, often from places he hadn't anticipated. Mike didn't limit his efforts to one networking group or business sector. He knew that successful farmers plant in different fields to diversify their crops. Similarly, Mike made sure to build relationships in various communities, knowing that each offered unique opportunities. Beyond his core group at Caerusnet, Mike joined local charitable boards, volunteered for community cleanup days, and attended educational workshops on small business growth. He always carried the same mindset: plant seeds wherever you go, because you never know which field will yield the richest harvest. So he also made a habit of staying in touch with people he met, even if they didn't immediately become clients or partners. Sometimes months or even years would go by before a connection blossomed into a business opportunity, but Mike wasn't worried. He understood that, much like farming, patience was key. As long as he kept planting, the growth would come. Planting seeds for Mike meant listening, being helpful, and building relationships without expecting instant results. By diversifying his efforts and always leading with value, Mike created a rich network of relationships, each one a seed that would grow in its own time. Just like farming, the more seeds you plant, the better potential for a bountiful harvest. Chapter 4: Watering the Seeds, Nurturing Relationships. Planting seeds is just the beginning. In farming, seeds need consistent care, sunlight, water, and the right conditions to grow. In the world of business, relationships need similar nurturing to flourish. For Mike Tracey, watering the seeds meant regularly checking in with his network, offering help where needed, and being a constant presence in the lives of his clients and referral sources. Mike understood that a single interaction wasn't enough to maintain a relationship. Just like crops require constant care, relationships need regular attention. So he made it a point to follow up with people, not just after he completed a job, but long after the initial connection had been made. Every few weeks, Mike would check in with the business owners he had met at Caerusnet and other networking events. His approach was simple but effective. He'd send a quick text or email to see how things were going, or invite them to grab coffee. He didn't ask for referrals or push his business. Instead, he focused on maintaining the connection. One time, he reached out to Angela, the real estate agent who had sent him a few referrals in the past. They hadn't spoken in a while, but Mike thought it was important to keep the relationship alive. Just wanted to see how things are going with your listings, he wrote in a brief email. Angela responded with a casual update, and their conversation naturally led to her mentioning a new property that needed junk removal. This wasn't a coincidence. Mike's steady nurturing of relationships paid off because he was always top of mind when his contacts needed help. He didn't have to sell his services aggressively. The referrals flowed naturally because people remembered him as someone who cared and stayed in touch. Nurturing relationships wasn't just about staying in contact, it was also about providing consistent value. Mike knew that he had to continually offer more than just junk removal services if he wanted those relationships to thrive. One way he did this was by being a valuable resource for information. Mike made it a point of staying informed about other local businesses, trends in home services, and ways to help small business owners grow. When he came across helpful articles or new developments in the community, he had shared them with his network. For example, when the town was considering changes to local zoning laws that would affect small business owners, Mike immediately forwarded the information to several of his contacts. This gesture had nothing to do with junk removal, but it demonstrated that Mike was always looking out for others. It wasn't long before people began reaching out to Mike, not just for junk removal, but for advice, referrals, and insights into the local business scene. By providing consistent value, Mike strengthened the relationships he had worked so hard to build. Beyond one-to-one interactions, Mike made sure to stay visible in the community. He sponsored local events, participated in charity drives, and volunteered for causes he cared about. This wasn't just for show. Mike genuinely enjoyed being involved, but his consistent presence in the community also served another purpose. It kept his name and face familiar to those who might need his services in the future. One summer, Brightwell Junk Removal sponsored a local park cleanup day. Mike and his team showed up early, provided free services to haul away debris, and spent the day working alongside the other community members. By the end of the event, Mike had not only helped clean the park, but had also formed deeper connections with several other business owners who were involved. The event wasn't about making sales, but it laid the groundwork for future referrals. Over the following months, several of the people Mike met at the park reached out for junk removal services, and the goodwill he had built within the community continued to spread. Chapter 5: Cultivating a Referral Network. Once the seeds were planted and watered, Mike's next step was to actively cultivate his referral network. This meant building a community of people who not only knew and trusted him, but were also eager to refer his services to others. Mike understood that cultivating a referral network wasn't about asking for favors. It was about creating a system of mutual benefit where everyone involved could grow together. Mike's referral network wasn't just about getting business. It was about creating a system where everybody benefited. He knew that if he wanted people to refer Brightwell Junk Removal to their clients, friends, and family, he had to offer something in return. But instead of promising kickbacks or incentives, Mike focused on creating value for others. He actively referred his contacts to other businesses whenever he could. If one of his customers mentioned needing a landscaper, Mike would refer them to Tricia, a landscaper he trusted. If a fellow business owner needed help organizing their office, he'd connect them with an organizer he had met through Caerusnet. Mike became known as the guy who always had a recommendation, and people appreciated that he wasn't just out for himself. In time, this reciprocal approach paid off. The more Mike helped others grow their businesses, the more they were eager to return the favor. His referral network became a well-oiled machine with a steady stream of clients coming from his contacts and their extended networks. Another key aspect of cultivating his referral network was educating others about what Brightwell Junk Removal did. Mike realized that people couldn't refer him if they didn't fully understand his services or the types of jobs he could handle. So he made it a point to be clear and consistent about what his company offered. Whether he was chatting with a new contact at a networking event or meeting with an old friend, Mike would explain the range of services his team could provide, from basic junk removal to hot tub disposal, basic demolition of outdoor sheds and the like, estate cleanouts, and hoarding situations. He emphasized the professionalism and care his team brought to each job, making sure people knew that Brightwell Junk Removal was more than just a hauling service. It was a trusted partner for any cleanup project. By educating his network on the full scope of his services, Mike made it easy for them to refer him confidently. They didn't have to guess what jobs he could handle or worry about whether he'd deliver. Mike had already made it clear. One of the biggest challenges in cultivating a referral network was staying top of mind. People naturally forget about services they don't need immediately. So Mike knew he had to find ways to gently remind his contacts about Brightwell junk removal, with an emphasis on not being pushy. He used a combination of tactics to achieve this. One of his most effective strategies was sending out a monthly newsletter to his network filled with tips on decluttering, updates about his business, and shout outs to other local businesses he had worked with. The newsletter wasn't a hard sell, it was a gentle reminder that Mike was still around, still offering value, and still the go to guy for junk removal. He also made it a point of staying active on social media, sharing before and after photos of his team's work and engaging with his followers. Whether it was a comment on someone's post or a quick like, Mike stayed involved in online conversations, keeping Brightwell junk removal top of mind in the digital space as well. Cultivating a referral network required Mike to create value for others, educate his contacts on what he did, and find ways to stay top of mind. By building a system of mutual benefit, Mike ensured that his network would continue to refer business his way, allowing his company to grow steadily and sustainably. Chapter 6: The Power of Reputation. In any business, its reputation is everything. For Mike, building and maintaining a strong reputation was as essential as tending to his crops. Just as farmers rely on the health of their land to produce good yields, Mike relied on his reputation to fuel the growth of his business. From day one, Mike set out to build a reputation based on excellence. He knew that every job his team completed was a reflection of him personally, and he wasn't willing to cut corners or rush through a project. Whether it was a small attic cleanout or a large-scale estate clearing, Mike ensured that his team developed top-notch service every time. This commitment to quality didn't go unnoticed. Customers would often comment on the professionalism of Mike's crew, like the way they showed up on time, treated the customer's property with respect, and left the job site cleaner than expected. It was these small touches that set Brightwell Junk Removal apart from the competition, and word quickly spread that Mike's company was the best in town. One of the hallmarks of Mike's reputation was his willingness to go above and beyond for his customers. He didn't just remove junk, he looked for ways to make the entire experience easier and more pleasant for his clients. For example, when a customer needed help moving some heavy furniture before his team could start the junk removal process, Mike didn't hesitate to lend a hand. He wasn't charging extra for the service, it was simply part of his philosophy of providing exceptional care. In another case, Mike and his team took the time to help a customer sort through old family belongings, making sure nothing valuable was mistakenly thrown away. These small acts of kindness weren't required, but they made a big difference. Customers began to refer to Mike as someone they could trust, not just do the job, but to care about the outcome. His reputation for going the extra mile became one of the key drivers of his referral business. In today's digital age, reputation isn't just built through word of mouth, it's also shaped by online reviews. Mike understood that potential customers would often look him up online before hiring Brightwell Junk Removal, so he made it a priority to maintain a positive online presence. After each job, Mike would encourage satisfied customers to leave a review on platforms like Google, Yelp, and Facebook. He didn't push too hard, but he made it easy for them by sending a quick follow-up email with links to the review sites. Over time, Brightwell Junk Removal amassed dozens of glowing reviews, each one serving as a testament to the quality of work Mike and his team provided. Of course, not every review is perfect. On rare occasions, a customer might have had a minor complaint, but Mike always handled these situations with care. He'd respond promptly to negative reviews, offering to make things right and demonstrating that customer satisfaction was his top priority. His transparency and willingness to address concerns further solidified his reputation as a trustworthy business owner. Mike's reputation for excellence, his commitment to going above and beyond, and his proactive management of online reviews all contributed to the growth of his business. Just like a farmer who tends to his land, Mike understood that nurturing his reputation was key to ensuring a bountiful harvest of referrals and repeat customers. Chapter 7: Weathering the Storms, Handling Setbacks. No matter how well you plan or how hard you work, setbacks are inevitable. Just as farmers face storms, droughts, and pests, business owners must deal with their own challenges. Michael Tracey wasn't immune to these difficulties. Whether it was a slow season, unexpected expenses, or a dissatisfied client, he learned how to weather the storms and keep moving forward. One of Mike's earliest lessons in business came from a mistake. During a large estate cleanout, one of his team members accidentally damaged a valuable piece of furniture. The client was understandably upset, and Mike had to figure out how to handle the situation. Instead of making excuses or deflecting blame, Mike took full responsibility. He apologized sincerely and offered to compensate the client for damage. It wasn't an easy decision, as replacing the piece would cut deeply into his profits, but Mike knew that preserving his reputation and maintaining the client's trust were more important in the long run. The experience taught Mike a valuable lesson. Mistakes happen, but how you handle them can make all the difference. By addressing the problem head on and showing integrity and responsibility, Mike turned what could have been a damaging situation into an opportunity to reinforce his commitment to customer satisfaction. Another challenge Mike faced was adapting to changes in the industry. As more competitors entered the junk removal market, Mike realized he needed to differentiate Brightwell Junk Removal to stay ahead. He couldn't rely on his existing network of reputation alone. He needed to innovate. Mike began offering additional services, such as recycling and donation pickups, to appeal to environmentally conscious customers. He also invested in new equipment to handle larger and more complex jobs, positioning his company as a one-stop solution for any type of cleanup. By adapting to the changing landscape, Mike ensured that his business continued to thrive even in the face of increased competition. Resilience became one of Mike's most valuable traits as a business owner. He knew that setbacks were a natural part of the journey, and instead of letting them discourage him, he used them as learning opportunities. Whether it was a slow month or an unexpected expense, Mike remained focused on the bigger picture, trusting that the seeds he had planted would eventually yield results. This mindset served him well during the economic downturns when many businesses struggled to stay afloat. While some of his competitors slashed prices or cut corners to survive, Mike doubled down on his commitment to quality and customer service. He continued to invest in his referral relationships, knowing that a strong network would help him weather any storm. Setbacks are inevitable, but Mike's ability to learn from challenges, adapt to change, and build resilience allowed him to navigate the realities of running a business. Just like a farmer who faces an unpredictable weather, Mike understood that perseverance and the long-term perspective were the key to surviving tough times and continuing to grow. Chapter 8, Harvesting the Rewards. After months or even years of hard work, farmers finally get to enjoy the fruits of their labor when it's time to harvest. For Mike, the harvest represented the referrals, repeat customers, and long-term success that came from consistently planting and nurturing relationships. By staying focused on building trust and offering value, Mike had built a thriving business that ran almost entirely on word of mouth. One of the most rewarding aspects of Mike's approach was the compound effect of referrals. Every satisfied customer became a potential advocate for Brightwell Junk Removal, friends, family members, and colleagues. Over time, these referrals multiplied, creating a steady stream of business that required little to no paid advertising on Mike's part. For example, after completing a particularly challenging hoarder cleanout, the grateful client referred Mike to her sister, who then referred him to her neighbor. Within a few months, Mike had completed 5 jobs, all stemming from that single initial referral. This snowball effect was a testament to the power of building strong, lasting relationships. The harvest wasn't just about immediate rewards, it was also about sustaining long-term success. Mike understood that, just like farming, business growth wasn't a one-time event. It required ongoing effort to maintain the relationships he had built and to continue planting new seeds for future growth. Mike made it a point of regularly reviewing his referral sources and reaching out to thank them for their support. Whether it was a handwritten note, a small gift, or a personal visit, Mike showed his appreciation in meaningful ways. This not only strengthened his existing relationship, but also encouraged his referral partners to continue sending business his way. As Mike's business grew, he also made a conscious effort to reinvest in the community that had supported him from the beginning. He sponsored local events, donated to charitable causes, and offered free services to those in need. By giving back, Mike wasn't just cultivating goodwill. He was also reinforcing the idea that Brightwell Junk Removal was a trusted and valued part of the community. One of the most rewarding moments came when Mike was recognized by the local Chamber of Commerce for his contributions to the community. While he appreciated the recognition, what mattered most to Mike was the sense of pride he felt in knowing that his business had made a positive impact on the people around him. The harvest represents the rewards from Mike's hard work, referrals, repeat customers, and long-term success. By focusing on relationships and consistently offering value, Mike had built a thriving business that continued to grow year after year. Just like a farmer who reaps the benefits of a well-tended crop, Mike enjoyed the fruits of his labor, knowing that his efforts would sustain him for the long haul. Chapter 9, Expanding the Farm, Scaling the Business. As Brightwell Junk Removal grew, Mike realized that his farm was ready for expansion. Just as farmers look for ways to increase their yields by acquiring more land or adopting new techniques, Mike began exploring opportunities to scale his business. One of the first steps in expanding the business was building a reliable team. Up until this point, Mike had managed most of the jobs himself with the help of a small crew. But as demand for Brightwell Junk Removal services increased, Mike knew he needed to hire more people to keep up. Hiring wasn't just about filling positions, it was about finding team members who shared Mike's commitment to quality and customer service. He took his time interviewing candidates, looking for individuals who were not only skilled, but who also understood the importance of building relationships with clients. After assembling a larger crew, Mike invested in training them to uphold the same standards of professionalism that had earned Brightwell Junk Removal its stellar reputation. By hiring the right people and giving them the tools to succeed, Mike was able to take on more jobs without sacrificing quality. Another key aspect of scaling the business was investing in better equipment and technology. Mike realized that to handle larger jobs and more complex cleanouts, he needed more than just a few trucks and some basic tools. He began upgrading his fleet, purchasing special equipment that allowed his team to work more efficiently and tackle bigger projects. In addition to equipment, Mike also invested in technology to streamline operations. He implemented a scheduling system that allowed clients to book appointments online, reducing the time spent coordinating jobs over the phone. This not only improved customer experience, but also freed up more time for Mike to focus on growing the business. As Brightwell Junk Removal grew, Mike also looked for ways to expand his service offerings. He began offering specialized services such as disaster cleanup, estate liquidation, and even hoarder intervention. These services not only set his company apart from competitors, but also created new revenue streams. By diversifying the services offered, Mike was able to attract a broader range of clients, from real estate agents to property managers to senior care placement professionals and individuals in need of sensitive cleanout services. The expanded offerings allowed Brightwell Junk Removal to become a one-stop shop for all types of cleanup needs, further solidifying his place in the market. Expanding the farm meant scaling the business by hiring the right team, investing in equipment and technology, and diversifying service offerings. By taking these steps, Mike was able to grow Brightwell Junk Removal without sacrificing the quality and reputation that made his business successful in the first place. Chapter 10, Passing on the Knowledge, Mentoring Others. As Brightwell Junk Removal continued to thrive, Mike found himself in a new role, mentor. Just as experienced farmers pass on their knowledge to the next generation, Mike began sharing his experience with other small business owners who were looking to grow their own ventures. Mike never set out to become a mentor, but as his business gained recognition, more and more people started coming to him for advice. Whether it was fellow junk removal company just starting out or a new local business looking to build a referral network, Mike was happy to share what he had learned. He believed that mentorship was about more than just giving advice. It was about helping others avoid the mistakes he had made and providing guidance based on real-world experience. Mike took pride in seeing others succeed, knowing that by helping them grow, he was contributing to the overall health of the local business community. One of the key lessons Mike imparted to his mentees was the importance of relationships. He emphasized that building a successful business wasn't about having the best product or service. It was about cultivating trust and goodwill with clients, partners, and the community. Mike would often tell the story of how he had built Brightwell Junk Removal through referrals, explaining the most beneficial asset any business owner could have is a strong referral network. He encouraged his mentees to focus on helping others first, knowing the rewards would come later. As Mike continued to mentor others, he realized that his efforts were creating a legacy. Just as a farmer's work lives on through the land they cultivate, Mike's influence would continue through the businesses he had helped along the way. His approach to relationship building had become a model for others to follow, and the impact of his mentorship exceeded far beyond his own company. Mentoring others allowed Mike to pass on the knowledge he had gained through years of relationships and growing his business. By sharing his experience and helping others succeed, Mike created a lasting legacy that would continue to influence the local business community for years to come. Chapter 11, The Importance of Giving Back. As his business reached new heights, Mike made it a priority to give back to the community that had supported him from the beginning. Just as farmers understand the importance of nurturing the land they rely on, Mike believed that supporting the community was essential to sustaining long-term success. Mike was always looking for ways to give back, whether it was sponsoring local events, donating services to charitable organizations, or volunteering his time for community cleanups. He believed that by investing in the community, he was not only helping others, but also strengthening the bonds that had helped his business grow. One of Mike's favorite causes was a local shelter that helped family in need. Brightwell Junk Removal regularly donated services to help the shelter clear out old donations, making room for new supplies. These acts of generosity didn't go unnoticed, and the shelter's director became one of Mike's most vocal advocates, regularly referring his company to others in the community. Mike understood that giving back wasn't just about writing checks, it was about leading by example. He encouraged his team to get involved in local causes, often organizing volunteer days where the entire crew would work together to support a charity or community event. By fostering a culture of giving within his company, Mike not only made a positive impact on the community, but also strengthened the bonds between his team members. They took pride in knowing that their work was making a difference, and this sense of purpose contributed to the overall success of the business. Giving back to the community was an essential part of Mike's business philosophy. By supporting local causes and leading by example, Mike reinforced the idea that Brightwell Junk Removal was more than just a business. It was a valued member of the community, dedicated to making a positive impact. Chapter 12, The Next Season, Looking to the Future. As the years went by, Michael Tracey reflected on the journey he had taken with Brightwell Junk Removal. From its humble beginnings to becoming a thriving business built on relationships and referrals, Mike had experienced the full cycle of growth, much like a farmer who sows, nurtures, and harvests his crops. Mike knew that the future of Brightwell Junk Removal was, in fact, bright, and he also understood that maintaining the company's success would require continued effort. Just as farmers prepare for the next season, Mike was already thinking about how to ensure the longevity of his business. He began putting plans in place to transition more of the day-to-day responsibilities to his team, empowering them to take on leadership roles. Mike wanted Brightwell Junk Removal to thrive even without his constant involvement, ensuring that the company's legacy of quality and relationship building would endure. Looking to the future, Mike was excited about exploring new opportunities for growth. He had already expanded Brightwell Junk Removal service offerings, but he was always on the lookout for ways to innovate and stay one step ahead of the competition. One idea Mike was considering was franchising the business. He believed that model that he created, built on referrals, quality service, and community involvement, could strategically be replicated in other markets. By offering franchise opportunities, Mike could help other aspiring entrepreneurs build their own businesses while spreading the values that had made Brightwell Junk Removal a success. Mike understood that change was inevitable, but he welcomed it with open arms. Just as farmers adapted to new technologies and techniques to improve their yields, Mike was ready to embrace whatever the future held, whether it was expanding his business, mentoring the next generation, or finding new ways to give back. Mike was confident that the seeds he had planted over the years would continue to bear fruit. Looking to the future, Mike was focused on continuing the legacy he had built with Brightwell Junk Removal. By empowering his team, exploring new opportunities, and embracing change, Mike was ready for the next season of growth, confident that he had the relationships that would cultivate and sustain him for years to come.